Discover the incredible rescue. Soldier and K-9 uncover a hidden little girl whispering "Mama." Jake stepped off the military transport, the biting Kansas wind wrapping around him like a forgotten embrace. He could see the skeletal remains of his hometown, once vibrant with life, now a ghost town holding its breath. A storm was brewing, both in the sky and within his heart, as his loyal K-9 partner, Max, trotted alongside, keen and ready. Their days of serving the country together had forged an unbreakable bond. But now, all Jake could think of was the family he left behind and the hopes that dangled like fragile ornaments on a war-torn tree. As he made his way through the streets, the familiar sidewalks faded into memories of cheer from high school games and backyard barbecues. Those echoes were supplanted by the stark reality of economic collapse, families crumbling under the weight of lost jobs and dreams. His heart ached with the pressures of unfulfilled expectations. He was supposed to be the hero he had been once. Now, what awaited him was uncertainty and a community in quiet desperation. Suddenly, the skies cracked open. Rain poured like a broken dam, wind twisting through the streets as trees splintered and roofs buckled. An eerie calm followed, punctured by muffled cries. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and Max's unwavering gaze, Jake surged forward, cutting through debris, determined to help. The chill of the storm bit at him, but the warmth of duty surged through his veins. "Hello? Is anyone there?" he called out. Darkness swallowed his words. Then it came, a soft, trembling whisper cutting through the chaos, "Mama, Mama." His heart raced. Jake followed the voice, pulse pounding in his ears, guiding Max as they stumbled upon a hidden entrance to a basement, half buried beneath the rubble. He kicked aside remnants of the storm-broken boards and twisted metal. Sweat trickled down his brow. As he descended, the beam of his flashlight illuminated the terrified face of a little girl. Mia, no older than 6, clutched a toy bear, trembling. "Mama?" she whimpered, eyes wide with fear. Jake's heart clenched. The innocence of her plea echoed the missed moments in his own daughter's life, every birthday and school play he had sacrificed for a cause far away. "Hey, it's okay, sweetheart. I'm here to help," he murmured, kneeling down to reassure her. He dug through the debris, memories swirling with each effort. He could feel the weight of his family's expectations pressing down, a painful reminder of his absence. Finally, as they clawed free from the darkness, the light poured over them. They emerged together, a soldier and a child, into a community rallying around them like a cocoon against the cold reality. When Mia spoke of her mother, a single parent devoted to a veterans' charity, Jake's world tilted. The line connecting their lives shimmered, a shared mission of service in the face of struggle. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the townspeople united, Jake felt the fragility of his own emotional barricade begin to crack. Could he be the hero everyone saw, the one his family expected him to be? With Mia safely cradled in his arms, her small hands clutching his shirt, hope flickered in the air despite the dark clouds overhead. But as her mother rushed forward, tears of relief streaming down her face, Jake sensed a heaviness in the air, the unspoken grievances from his own family, the unsettled emotions that threatened to unravel everything he had begun to build. With hope and uncertainty entwined, Jake stood on the precipice of his own redemption. Could he find a way back to himself in a community desperately trying to heal? The journey to reclaim what mattered most was just beginning. The embrace of the townspeople felt both warm and unsettling. Mia's mother, Laura, wrapped her arms around the child, their reunion a beacon of light in the storm's aftermath. Jake stepped back, still processing the weight of the moment. Relief and joy washed over him, but the voices inside his head slowed the cheers around him. Was he really worthy of this hero's welcome? Mia, still clutching her teddy bear, glanced back at Jake with those wide, trusting eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the distant churn of the rain. It struck him deeply. How many times had he needed words of gratitude himself? But nothing compared to the gratitude he felt in that moment. He had found her, had brought her back. As the crowd dispersed, Jake exchanged nervous glances with Laura, who was now kneeling beside her daughter. The gratitude in her eyes clearly held a deeper understanding. She knew the toll it took to fight a battle. He could see the battle scars of a single parent fighting to just get by. "Jake, wait!" Laura's voice broke through his thoughts. He turned back, feeling the straining threads of surprise binding them together. "I owe you more than just a thank you." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken connections. Jake rubbed the back of his neck, overcome with emotion. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would do." Her lips tightened into a small smile, but her gaze was steady. "You saved my daughter. That changes everything." The wind howled around them as if reminding him of the chaos they had just emerged from. He felt an urge to explain, to confess how many days he had spent in the dark corners of his own mind, fighting battles that looked nothing like rescue operations. "I haven't been a good husband, a good father. I've been. It's complicated." He stumbled over the words, feeling embarrassed and exposed. Laura nodded slowly, understanding etched on her features. "We all wear our battles. Some of them aren't visible." Their conversation was interrupted by a man pushing through the crowd. His face was lined with worry, mingling with the relief that surfaced upon seeing Mia. It was Laura's brother, and as he approached, Jake noticed the flicker of recognition in his eyes. The man looked at Jake with a mix of emotion and respect, a silent bond forming over the shared sacrifice of being part of a greater cause. "Thank you, for bringing her back," he managed, his voice choked with relief. "We were so afraid." Jake felt a wave of warmth fill the space as the family united. For once, the heaviness in his heart started to lighten. As the rain subsided into a gentle drizzle, the sun barely peeked through the clouds. Hope was flickering back to life, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. He glanced at Max, who stood beside him, ever vigilant. For the first time in ages, a sense of purpose surged within Jake. "Hey Laura, if you ever need help with anything," he began, but she interrupted, her eyes brightening at the idea. "Actually, we do. The Veterans Charity needs volunteers, and we'd love for you and Max to join us." For a split second, he hesitated. Could he commit? Could he step back into a world that had once consumed him, the unease lingering just beneath the surface? But as he watched Mia smile, a light spark within her, the answer started swirling in his chest. Perhaps it was not about stepping away from the war he had fought, but rather stepping into a different kind of battle, a fight for healing and connection. "Count us in," he finally said, unable to suppress the smile forming on his face. And together, the soldier and the girl who had called for her mama took a step towards the uncertain light ahead. But as joy began to bloom, something unseen loomed, a letter Jake had left behind, still unopened, waiting back at home. What truth would it reveal? Jake felt a flutter of anticipation rising within him as he exchanged glances with Max. Those trusted eyes reflected understanding, urging him toward the new path ahead. The bond he felt with the pair of them, Mia with her little teddy bear, and Max with his unwavering loyalty, was a lifeline in a world that often felt sparse and unforgiving. As the town began to tidy itself after the storm's chaos, Jake and Laura moved with purpose toward the community center. Laughter and mirth bubbled up around them, volunteers were organizing supplies and crafts for the children. It was a hub of energy, healing, and resilience, something Jake had thought only existed in distant memories. Now, it surrounded him. While Laura caught up with her brother, Jake knelt beside Mia, who was examining a pile of vibrant fabric swatches. "Do you like these colors?" he asked, curious. Her face lit up. Purple. It's my favorite. She clutched the teddy bear tighter, nodding at the swatches excitedly. Can we make a blanket for Max? Jake chuckled, taken aback by her innocence. A blanket, huh? I think Max would love that. I can help. She insisted, and her pride in suggesting the idea was infectious. With a smile, Jake grabbed some fabric and joined Mia as she picked out the perfect shade of purple. Each choice turned into a small adventure, and her laughter rang with a sweetness that momentarily washed away the storm's remnants from Jake's mind. Behind them, the sound of Laura's voice reached Jake's ears. "This is so generous of you," she was saying. "I can't believe how many people are pitching in." "You'd be amazed at how the community can come together," her brother replied. "Especially after an event like that." Jake thought about the lingering shadows in his own life, fears beating quietly in the back of his mind. Could he be part of a community like the one forming around him? Memories flooded back, nights of loneliness and fracture, wrestling with what he couldn't control in his life. Yet, here he was, a soldier in an unexpected fight, one where victories could be found in small moments. Just then, Max nudged his side, drawing Jake's attention. The dog's deep brown eyes seemed to read his thoughts. Jake rubbed the dog's head, feeling the comfort wash over him. "All right, boy. Let us get to work," he said, standing up with renewed courage. Hours melted away as they worked side by side. The blanket took shape along with a sense of belonging that began to resonate in Jake's heart. He watched Mia carefully align the fabric pieces, her little tongue sticking out in concentration. The sight made his chest swell with pride. As they finished, Laura approached with a grateful smile. "They're going to love this at the charity. You've really brought a lot of joy today, Jake." "Thanks, but it's Mia who did most of the work," he replied, glancing down at her. "I'm a good helper," Mia exclaimed, beaming, her spirit radiant. The warmth of companionship wrapped around them, inviting Jake to step out of the hesitance he'd felt for too long. Still, the unopened letter at home buzzed in the corner of his mind, an electric reminder of the uncertain truth he had left behind. "Can we keep doing this?" Jake asked, voice strangely full of hope. Laura's eyes sparkled with determination. "Absolutely. This is just the beginning." As they prepared to leave, however, an unsettling thought gnawed at him. What if this newfound purpose came with repercussions he wasn't ready to face? The joy around him felt almost fragile, balanced on the edge of something monumental. But he pushed that thought aside. For now, he was where he needed to be. The bond they formed was fortifying, but as they walked toward the door, he couldn't shake the feeling that his past was still lingering, waiting for the right moment to catch up. What awaited him in that letter? Would it shatter the fragile peace he'd begun to build? The fear lingered like an unanswered question, casting a shadow over their returning hope. As they stepped outside, a sudden weight pressed down on Jake's chest, threatening to shatter the lightness he had felt just moments ago. The sun was setting in a splash of warm hues, but shadows still loomed in his thoughts. He glanced toward the horizon, where the sky brushed against the earth like a masterful stroke of a painter's brush. The beauty was undeniable, yet the gnawing uncertainty gnawed at him. Max barked playfully at a group of children running past. Jake couldn't help but smile as Mia's laughter echoed, her joy drifting through the evening air like a melody. But just as Jake turned to join in, a distant scream pierced the comfort of the moment, a sharp cry that cut through the laughter, freezing everyone in place. "Over there!" Laura shouted, pointing toward the wooded area at the edge of the community park. The sound had come from that direction. Jake's heart raced as urgency flooded through him. Without thinking, he sprinted toward the shadows of the trees, Max bounding at his side, fueled by instinct. "Mia, stay with Laura," he called back, though part of him wanted to turn around and protect her. But Laura nodded, grabbing Mia's hand tightly, and they remained rooted where they were. The closer he got to the woods, the more vividly the cries repeated, faint and desperate, like a fragile flower struggling to blossom amid harsh surroundings. 1,000 fears flashed through Jake's mind, but he pushed them away. He had to be brave, not just for himself but for whoever was in need. Branches snapped under his feet as he plunged deeper, following the sound as it grew louder. Max began to bark, his body alert. Jake felt the dog's energy surging through him. With every step, hope mixed with something primal, a need to save, to protect. Then, just as Jake rounded an old oak tree, he found it. A small figure, crouched low, thin arms wrapped around her knees. The little girl trembled, tears trailing down her cheeks, and she looked up at Jake with wide, frightened eyes. "Please, I can't find my mama," she whimpered, her voice barely above a whisper, but the weight of her plea hung in the air. Jake's heart shattered at the sight. Here was a child lost in the very world he had tried to escape from. Without thinking, he knelt down, matching her level. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now. My name is Jake, and this is Max," he said softly as the dog approached, his tail wagging gently. "Hey, are you a soldier?" the girl asked, her voice trembling. "Yes, I am. But right now, I'm just here to help you. Can you help me find my mama?" she asked, her small hand reaching out for Max. The dog nudged her gently, a comfort in his presence. "Of course," Jake replied, determination flooding his voice. "We'll find her together." He could feel a spark igniting within him, the fierce pull of responsibility mixing with the warmth of hope. Just then, Laura and Mia arrived, their eyes wide with concern. Jake straightened, turning to them, an urgency building. "This little girl is lost. We need to find her mom." Mia stepped forward, unafraid, her childlike confidence shining through. "I'll help too." Her voice rang clear, inspiring. As they worked together to console the girl, Jake suddenly realized how deeply this moment connected him to the life he had put on pause. Perhaps he could be more than a soldier, he could be a savior, a part of a new family and community. Yet, as they started shouting for the girl's mother, a flicker of dread settled back into the pit of Jake's stomach. The letter still sat unopened at home, where secrets lingered like ghosts. The past wasn't done with him yet. How far would he go to protect those here with him, and how much of his own truth would he have to confront? In that moment, he knew their journey was just beginning, but would it lead to healing or heartache? Jake felt every heartbeat echoing in his ears as he crouched before the trembling girl. He had never been in a position like this, one filled with raw emotion and urgency. It wasn't just about saving her, it was about guiding her back to safety, back to the warmth of her mother's embrace. "Stay close to me," he said gently, forcing a smile despite the chill racing down his spine. They needed to focus, not just for her sake but for themselves too. Max sensed the gravity of the moment, sitting by the girl's side, offering his own unwavering comfort. "What's your name?" Jake asked, trying to keep her mind off the fear. "Lily," she whispered, brushing her tear-streaked cheeks with the back of her hand. "Mia, can you lead the way back to the park?" Jake suggested, still watching Lily closely. "Laura and I will stay with her." Confident, Mia nodded and turned, almost bursting with purpose. They made their way through the trees, moving slowly but steadily. Laura, walking beside Jake, searched the forest for any sign. "Do you think her mom is nearby?" she asked quietly. "I hope so," Jake replied, keeping his eyes on Lily, who was now trying to match his stride. "But we can't stop looking. We won't let her down." With each step, the trees cleared ahead, revealing the edge of the park. Shouts and laughter slowly flooded back into their ears. Even with the sound of normalcy, the weight pulling at Jake's chest felt heavier. They hadn't found Lily's mother yet. Suddenly, Lily paused. I think I remember which way we came from," she said, her brows furrowed in concentration. "You think so?" Jake replied, kneeling once more to meet her gaze. Can you show me? Lily nodded and turned, taking the lead with a cautious, determined stride. Jake exchanged a glance with Laura, who could see the determination reflected back in his eyes. This was more than a lost girl, this was about hope, community, and the ties that bind them all, a chance to be something greater. As they followed Lily, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows on the ground, and Jake felt the briefest moment of doubt. What would it mean for all of their lives if they couldn't find her mother? But instead of letting the fear take root, he focused on the small figure ahead of him, a symbol of perseverance in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. They reached a small clearing where a cluster of people gathered, playing in the fading light. Jake noticed a woman, her hair disheveled and her face frantic with worry. One look at her told him everything. She was Lily's mother. Lily! The woman cried, rushing forward as soon as she spotted the girl. The moment was electric, it felt almost like the world paused. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, dashing into her mother's arms. The relief on both their faces painted the breath of life back into Jake's world. Tears flowed freely as the woman hugged her daughter, their reunion a beautiful scene that filled the air with warmth. Yet, even as joy surrounded them, doubt stirred in the back of Jake's mind. He had stepped into this moment with a desire to protect, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that his battle was far from over. As he watched the two embrace, a flicker of doubt ignited again. What was his purpose here, and how could he truly protect the ones he had come to care for? "Mia," Laura called softly, drawing Jake's attention back to the children. "Come say goodbye." Jake felt a surge of warmth as he watched Mia approach, her small hand reaching out to touch Lily's shoulder in a show of solidarity. "I hope you find your way home," Mia said, her voice sweet and bright, breaking through the haze of doubt. For a moment, it felt like everything was slipping into place, the past, the present, the fragile thread that connected them all. But as the sun descended, shadows still danced at the edge of the woods, and Jake knew the serenity wouldn't last. Whispers of the letter back home began to creep into his thoughts. What would he discover when he dared to open it? And would the answers finally connect the lines back to the fears deep within him? As Lily's mother thanked them and Lily waved goodbye, Jake's heart raced. Behind him lay one journey, yet a new one was already waiting to unfold. Would he be ready when the time came to confront the shadows of his past? The air grew thick as Jake stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the joyful reunion unfold. He'd helped save a little girl, but the relief he felt was muddled with unease. Could he carry that weight forward? The happy chaos of the park felt surreal, a world away from the dread circling in his mind. "Jake," Laura called, her voice slicing through his thoughts. She seemed to sense his internal conflict. "You okay?" Jake forced a smile, but it didn't escape her scrutiny. "Just thinking." "About what?" She pressed gently, moving closer. He hesitated. "It's just helping Lily was one thing. But what if we hadn't found her? What would that mean?" Laura met his gaze steadily. "You can't hold that kind of weight on your shoulders. It's not just your responsibility." Her words rang true, yet the nagging doubts remained. He had always strived to be someone who protected others, but what if he failed? The laughter and chatter around them pulsed in stark contrast to his inner turmoil, and the vibrant colors of the park had grown dimmer, like the vibrant shades of a painting fading. As he looked around, his thoughts turned to the letter. The one he hadn't opened yet. Would it hold answers or only deepen the questions manifesting in his heart? "Let us get out of here," Laura suggested, glancing at the families reuniting, her expression reflecting a mixture of joy and sympathy. "We've done what we came for." "Yeah," Jake nodded, but guilt tugged at him as they moved away. He'd never forget the sound of Lily's mother calling out to her, the look of pure relief on both their faces. Wasn't he supposed to carry that joy with him? "What's next for you?" Laura asked, interrupting his thoughts once again. Jake shrugged. He wanted to say that he'd face whatever came next with courage, but there was a heaviness that told him otherwise. I don't know. Just figure it out, I guess. Their steps crunched against the fallen leaves, and the sky darkened slowly while they walked towards their car. It was peaceful but only skin-deep. Jake's mind was still with Lily and her mother, but he couldn't ignore the undertow of his own fears any longer. As they reached the parking lot, Jake spotted Mia waving goodbye to the pair. The simple act filled his heart with a bittersweet warmth. In that moment, he realized how interconnected their lives had become, even in such a short time. Mia was a beacon of goodness, a reminder of the kind of influence they could have on the world. What if we focused on helping more people? He blurted out, surprising even himself. Not just kids who are lost but anyone who needs support. What if we started something, a community effort? Laura looked at him, her eyes widening with curiosity. You mean like a neighborhood watch? Or something more? Yeah, something more active. We could use our skills, bring people together, he said, his heart racing with the possibility. It felt good, a real purpose amidst the uncertainty he faced. The vision of a united community began to swell within him, filling the lonely void that had echoed since the day he enlisted. He wanted to prevent others from feeling lost, to ensure that every child had a safe place to run back to, just like Lily had. Let us do it, Laura smiled, her enthusiasm catching fire alongside his. But first, we need to tackle that letter when you get home. Whatever it says could help too. Right, Jake sighed, both anxious and eager, glancing back toward the park one last time. Let South meet at my place tomorrow, she continued, her voice steady. We'll brainstorm. Who knows what we could create? As the idea hung in the air, Jake felt lighter, the shadows of his past receding just a little. But deep inside, uncertainty flickered. Would this new endeavor finally help him confront what lay ahead? As they slid into the car, Jake realized he was at the brink of something transformative. He inhaled deeply, steeling himself to open not just the letter, but the door to an unknown future. Was he ready to challenge his demons and step into the light of change? Or would he find himself shackled by the burdens of what he feared to confront? The answers were waiting just ahead, and he felt an urgency to uncover the truth. The drive home was quiet, the hum of the engine a backdrop to Jake's swirling thoughts. He stole glances at Laura, who tapped her fingers against her thigh, lost in her own reflections. They both knew this was a turning point, but what shape it would take remained uncertain. Jake parked the car and took a deep breath. The house loomed before him like an old friend, its shadows stretching long as the sun began its descent. He lingered by the door, the letter weighing heavy in his pocket. The thought of facing those words sent a chill through him, like a gust of wind brushing through autumn leaves. Jake? Laura's voice pulled him from his reverie. You coming in? Yeah, just 1 second. He squared his shoulders and stepped inside. The familiar scent of pine and old books greeted him. He could hear the clock ticking in the living room, its slow rhythm a reminder that time marched on, regardless of his internal battles. He passed the empty frames on the walls, searching for comfort in memories. As he slipped off his shoes, anxiety tightened around his chest. He avoided the kitchen where the letter lay. I'll grab a quick drink, he called out, hoping to delay the inevitable. But the echo of Laura's footsteps reminded him that he wasn't alone in this. Jake? Her tone was gentle, yet insistent. He turned, and there she was, standing at the doorway with her arms crossed, a mix of concern and encouragement in her eyes. You need to read it. You can't run from it forever. I know, he exhaled, running a hand through his hair. It's just what if it changes everything? They're just words. You decide how they impact you, she replied, moving closer. You've faced tougher things, haven't you? He nodded, but didn't he share the bigger demons still lurking in his mind? Opening that letter felt like unlocking a door to a room he wasn't sure he wanted to enter. I'll be right here, she promised, unwavering. With a reluctant sigh, he walked toward the table where the envelope sat, staring at it like it was a live grenade. He slid his finger under the flap, tearing it open with a mix of dread and determination. The thin paper felt almost fragile in his hands. As he unfolded it, his heart pounded louder, drowning out the sound of the clock. The first sentence hit him like a tidal wave. "Dear Jake," he read silently, each word sinking in deeper than the last. The emotional walls he built around himself began to tremble, and the memories flooded in, uninvited and relentless. The letter detailed something he thought he had buried: a chance encounter, a painful split, a choice never properly understood. "Jake, what's it say?" Laura's voice broke through the haze, her concern palpable. He looked up, eyes wide. It's about my service. About the mission that went wrong. They didn't tell me everything." Jake's heart raced as the words spun in his mind. A truth he'd long evaded now stood tall before him. Questions surged like an unrelenting tide. What else was hidden? How would this change his vision of who he was becoming? "What do you want to do with this?" Laura asked, her voice steady. He paused, realization creeping in. The community they wanted to build could be a safe space not just for others, but for himself. Could he turn this pain into purpose? "I want to understand it more," he breathed, a profound sense of clarity breaking through. "And maybe help others who are struggling too, just like I am." Jake could feel a shift, a small light growing, igniting a spark of hope amidst the chaos. But just as he found a flicker of direction, discord struck the atmosphere. The doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected. Jake exchanged a glance with Laura. They both felt it, the shift from one decision toward the next, life-changing moment. Who could that be? He muttered, tension winding up again. As he walked to the door, a sudden fear swept over him. What if this visitor held news that would disrupt his fragile resolve? He opened it, a world of uncertainty waiting beyond. Was he prepared for whatever lay on the other side, or would this moment morph into another layer of complexity that he wasn't ready to face? The threshold beckoned with unanswered questions lurking in the shadows. Jake hesitated, heart racing as he gripped the doorknob, the cool metal grounding him for a moment. With a deep breath, he pulled the door open. The sight in front of him sent a fresh wave of confusion crashing over him. A woman stood there, breathless and wide-eyed. Her hair was wild, and her clothes were mud-streaked and torn, as if she had just run through a forest. "Please, is your name Jake?" she asked, urgency lacing her voice. "Yeah, that's me." "Who are?" he started, but she cut him off. "Just, please, you have to help. They said you would." Her words rattled instinctively against the backdrop of his swirling emotions from the letter. "Who said? What do you mean?" Jake's mind raced, searching for the threads connecting their lives in the chaos of his own thoughts. "They found me," she pleaded, eyes shimmering with desperation. "I need you to come. It's about your service, the mission, your dog." The mention of his service sent echoes of guilt crashing back. "I can't explain it all right now, but I need you to trust me. I think they're in danger." Laura stepped up beside Jake, a protective force that steadied him. "What do you mean? Who's in danger? It's not safe here. We need to move." "I promise I wouldn't have come unless it was urgent," the woman urged, glancing over her shoulder as though expecting someone to leap from the shadows. Jake looked at Laura, uncertainty flickering between them. The letter's words still loomed large in his mind, a mystery demanding scrutiny. But this was real. Here was a person begging for help, an opportunity to make a real difference. "Okay. We'll listen," he said, voice steadier than he felt. "But you need to tell us everything. Who's in danger? And why do you want me?" Taking a shaky breath, the woman stepped inside, urgency flooding the space. "There's a little girl, I found her out there. She's calling for her mother. She's scared, and I don't know how long she can stay hidden." They'll come looking for her. Jake's chest tightened at the thought of a child lost and alone. Where is she? And who's they? Not far. They're looking for her because she saw something she shouldn't have. You need to come now, while there's still time. The gravity of her words knocked the air from Jake's lungs. He felt a sense of purpose clawing through the haze of uncertainty. Laura, what do you think? He asked, seeking validation from her unwavering presence. She regarded the woman closely, weighing the situation. We can't ignore it, can we? If there's a girl in danger, we have to act. With a quick nod of agreement, Jake felt the flicker of hope reignite within him. Okay, let us go. Just lead the way. As they rushed out the door, he felt the specter of his past hover behind him. The letter had opened wounds he wasn't ready to face, yet this felt different. This wasn't about him anymore, it was about saving someone who desperately needed help. They followed the woman down the narrow dirt path that wound through the trees, the air thick with tension and the smell of damp earth. Jake's heart pounded, each step taking him further from his own fears and deeper into an unfolding mystery. Can you tell us more? Laura asked, trying to keep pace with the urgency of the woman's strides. After we find her, I promise, the woman replied, glancing over her shoulder. But we need to hurry. Time is running out. Jake felt his breath quickening, knowing they were diving into something bigger than he'd anticipated. Each heartbeat echoed with the weight of lives at stake. As they plunged deeper into the shadows of the forest, the distance from home grew wider, leaving him with one burning question: would he be able to save the girl and confront the truth he had been running from all this time? The path narrowed, thick branches clawing at their clothes like fingers trying to pull them back. The dense foliage was alive with sounds: the rustle of leaves, the distant chirping of birds. Yet there was an underlying silence, a heaviness that hung in the air, as if the forest itself held its breath, waiting. Do you know her name? Jake asked, trying to keep the fear from his voice. The woman shook her head. I never got that far. I was focused on getting her to safety. Let us just find her first. Jake nodded, a rush of adrenaline coursing through him. He could feel Laura's hand squeezing his, a tactile anchor in the midst of the emotional storm. They pushed on, the urgency thickening with each step. What if she's hurt? Laura's voice trembled, revealing the anxiety she was managing. Jake looked at her, wishing he could reassure her with words stronger than empty promises. We'll bring her back. We won't leave without her, he said firmly, though doubt lingered just beneath the surface. The woman led them deeper into the woods, darting left and right as though she had memorized every bend and shadow. Jake struggled to keep up, the weight of his past intertwined with the urgency of the present, gnawing at him. Despite the fear, a new resolve blossomed within him. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he could do something that truly mattered. Suddenly, the woman stopped, her eyes locked on something ahead. She breathed in sharply, a look of terror flashing across her face. This way. She whispered urgently. They hurried around an old oak tree, its bark gnarled and rough under Jake's fingertips. And then he heard a faint, haunting sound, a soft whimpering that cut through the underbrush like a blade. His heart raced as he followed the sound, the instinct to rescue overwhelming. Over here. The woman said, crouching low. Jake dropped beside her, his pulse quickening as he scanned the area. The whimpering grew louder and he could distinguish soft, stifled sobs. His heart cracked a little wider at the sound, flooding him with a sense of duty. There. Laura gasped, her eyes wide, pointing under a thicket of ferns. Pawing aside the wet leaves, Jake's breath hitched as he found her, a little girl, no more than 6, crouching in the dirt, her hair matted and eyes wide with fright. Mama, she whispered, voice trembling. Hey, we're here to help you, Jake said gently, keeping his tone soothing. What's your name? See Carly, she hiccuped, peering out cautiously. Carly, it's okay. We're going to get you out of here. Laura knelt beside Jake, reaching out a hand. You're safe with us now. But before he could reach to comfort her, a sudden crack of branches echoed in the distance. The woman's eyes went wide again, full of fear and urgency. We don't have much time. Jake felt his heartbeat drumming madly against his chest. The feeling of impending danger churned like a storm inside him. What is it? Who is coming? The people looking for her, the woman urged, panic creeping into her voice. If they find us, then we can't waste any time. Jake interrupted. The fear of the unknown pressed against him. He stood tall, facing the girl whose life may hang in the balance, promising himself they would all find safety together. Carly, we need you to be brave, he said, his voice steady. Can you run with us? With a small nod, she wiped her tears with the back of her hand. All right, hold my hand, Jake instructed, his heart swelling with a fierce protection he never knew he could feel. He glanced at Laura and the woman, both ready and determined, ready to become part of this unexpected family. And as they prepared to make their escape, dread tightened around him. Just what or who were they running from? Fear and purpose mingled in his chest as he looked down at the girl. He had to hope that what lay ahead wouldn't unravel the fragile threads of safety they were weaving together. Let us go, he urged, gripping Carly's tiny hand. They dashed towards the path with newfound vigor, unaware of the shadows closing in around them. As they tore through the undergrowth, the haunting question lingered, would they be fast enough to escape what was coming? The group raced through the forest, heart pounding in unison with the rhythm of urgency echoing in Jake's chest. Every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig, made him jump, images of the dangers lurking in the trees swirling in his mind. Holding Carly's hand, he could feel the tremor coursing through her tiny frame, it fueled his determination. They had to reach safety. Stay close, Jake called out, glancing back at Laura and the woman, who they now knew as Eva, as they sprinted in unison behind him. The shadows of the trees seemed to close in, the thrill of adrenaline pumping energy into his legs. If they could just make it to the clearing ahead where they had parked the car, escape would be within reach. They broke out from the dense underbrush, sprinting into a dimly lit clearing where Max was anxiously waiting, panting relentlessly. Jake felt a rush of relief wash over him. The dog sensed the danger surrounding them and barked instinctively, willing them to action. Carly, are you ready? Jake turned as he knelt down to her level, staring deeply into her frightened eyes. Whatever happens next, I promise you'll be safe. We will protect you. Carly nodded, clutching Jake's hand tighter. In that instant, he could see a flicker of trust ignite in her gaze. Like a flame catching wind, it spread through him, warming his resolve. Let us move, Eva urged, shattering the moment as they hurried towards the car. The sound of footsteps crunching the fallen leaves behind them sent Jake's heart racing again. An urgency surged through his veins. Time was running out. As they neared the vehicle, a sudden shout ripped through the tension of the forest. Stop! A voice echoed, authoritative and chilling. Jake spun around, the air in his lungs recoiling. A group of shadowed figures emerged from the trees, eyes locked onto them, faces devoid of compassion. Carly! One of the figures yelled, a man with scruffy hair and a hardened expression, extending his arm, fingers pointing her way. Come here. You know you shouldn't be out here. That voice echoed like a thunderstorm in Jake's mind, a reminder of a past he'd fought to escape. He felt protective instincts surge, each ache in his chest awakening a deeper memory, the voice of a commanding officer he had once respected, shadowed now by the weight of lost trust. No! Jake roared, stepping forward to shield Carly with his body. She's with us. You can't have her. Laura glanced back, eyes wide with panic. Jake, we need to go. Now! An urgency thickened the air. The man's face twisted in frustration. You don't know what you're doing. Let her go. He pointed toward the others, who fanned out, creating walls of intimidation. The tension crackled, fear mingled with determination. "No one is taking her," Jake shouted, bolstered by bravery and the fierce loyalty of Max, who stood by his side, a guardian ready to defend. "Run!" Jake commanded. Eva and Laura grabbed Carly's tiny hands and pulled her along as Jake turned to keep the figures in sight, his heart racing. It was a fraught tug of war, his spirit desperate to save while fear clawed at his heart. Would they really make it out? Together, they barreled back into the thick brush, branches tearing at their clothes as they pushed through, hearts racing with terror and hope intertwined. The figures gave chase behind them, but Jake could tell they were losing steam, their shouts fading into the trees. Carly squeezed Jake's hand tighter. "I'm afraid," she whimpered. "I know, but you're safe with us," Jake replied, turning back to reassure her with a smile. "Just a little further." They broke out into another clearing, more open than before, and Jake gasped as a plan sparked to life. The community center awaited just beyond the pathway. "Over there." "The center." Laura pointed ahead, desperation laced with hope. "Let us go," Jake urged, trading glances with Eva. Knowing the warmth of community could shield them from whatever darkness pursued, he sprinted ahead, Carly and Max skimming alongside. As they drew closer, the sounds of laughter and music reached them, inviting them back toward the safety of numbers. But just as they crossed the threshold between the woods and the safety of sanctuary, a new fear struck. The figures were gaining speed, faster than he had expected, shadows chasing them into daylight. "Hold on. We're almost there," Jake encouraged, keeping his grip on Carly's tiny hand firm as they pushed toward the doors of the center, an echoing heartbeat marking their desperate momentum. With one last surge, they closed the distance, bursting through the doors and tumbling into chaos. Jake pulled Carly protectively behind him as he slammed the door shut, locking it with a shaky breath. "Help!" he shouted, panic bleeding through urgency, turning to the groups of community members inside, their laughter silenced by the sudden chaos. "Someone's after us," he shouted, adrenaline pumping. "We need help, there's a girl in danger." The room froze, hearts momentarily locked with disbelief. Then, a buzz of voices erupted. Eva stepped forward, addressing the crowd with authority. "Everyone, remain calm. We need to protect this child." As the townspeople rallied around, Jake felt a new sense of purpose wash over him. This was a community, this was his community. They held power, strength forged through shared experiences and support. The shadows that pursued them outside diminished in the face of collective courage. "Where is Lily?" an older woman shouted from the back. "She's out there too. We have to find her." Jake locked eyes with Laura, their resolve became a silent pact. "We have to act. We can't let fear define us. We have to protect these kids." As townspeople moved to barricade doors and form a network of eyes on watch, Jake felt a swell of hope course through him. Together, they could face the danger lurking outside. Little Carly glanced up at him, eyes filled with admiration and trust, swelling his heart with courage. "Will we protect them?" she asked, voice steady despite the remnants of fear. "Yes," he said slowly, with determination painting his words. "We will. Together." And all at once, Jake understood. This was more than a rescue, it was a transformation, the beginning of something new. One where every child would run home, where every shadow would find light, and where he could finally confront the truths that had long haunted him. As the door rattled from the impact outside, the weight of the moment hung thick in the air. Jack stood ready, surrounded by not just a community but a family forged through bravery, shining against the darkness. It was time to meet the storm head-on. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, his heart racing, eyes locking on Laura's with a fierce determination. She nodded, the strength in her gaze emboldening him. And as they took a collective breath, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, Jake pushed open the door once more. This was their moment of fight for their future, for each other, and for every child still waiting to find their way home. Together, they would rewrite their stories. Together, they would emerge triumphant. Together, they would protect the light against the shadows. This was their journey, and it was just beginning. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it makes a huge difference. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment down below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters.